The Imperial Council met in secret that night. Ambassador Taiyang knew this because Engineer Hyun had quietly placed a monitoring device on High Chancellor Kventhar's robes during the throne room meeting. It was very small, very illegal, and very effective. The human delegation listened to the debate in their quarters. The audio was clear. They must be made to submit, Fleet Admiral Korvax was saying. We cannot allow this defiance to stand. Every species in the Imperium is watching. If humans can refuse, others will try. And if we force them? Another voice asked. If we go to war with Earth? Then we win, Korvax said. They are one planet. We are 47 systems. At what cost? High Chancellor Kventhar asked. They were not lying about their capabilities. I had our intelligence officers review their military infrastructure. They are not bluffing. A war with Earth would be expensive. So we let them dictate terms? Korvax sounded angry. We let them walk away? Maybe, the Empress said quietly. The council fell silent. Maybe we let them walk away. And maybe we think about what they said. Your Majesty, Korvax started, but she cut him off. They were not wrong. Everything they said was true. We rule through fear. We conquer and expect gratitude. We demand submission and call it unity, and it has worked for 3,000 years. But these humans show us it does not have to work forever. In their quarters, the humans looked at each other. Dr. Minji raised her eyebrows. This was unexpected. The next morning, High Chancellor Kventhar requested a private meeting with Ambassador Taiyang. They met in a small room, just the two of them. No guards, no recording devices that Taiyang could see. The Empress is considering your proposal, Kventhar said. He looked tired. But there are practical problems. If we grant humanity equal partnership, every other member species will demand the same. The Imperium would collapse, would it? Taiyang asked. Or would it transform into something stronger? You do not understand, Kventhar said. Many of our member species joined because they had no choice. They hate us. If we give them freedom, they will leave. They will take revenge for what we did to them. Some might, Taiyang admitted, but some might stay. Some might choose to be part of something better than an empire, a federation, an alliance, something built on choice rather than force. You make it sound simple. It is not simple, Taiyang said. It would be hard. It would be messy. Some species would leave, yes. Some would demand reparations. Some would want justice for past wrongs. But the alternative is waiting for the system to collapse on its own. And it will collapse, Chancellor. Every empire does. Kventhar was quiet for a long time. You speak from experience. We do, Taiyang said. We have seen what happens when empires refuse to change. They fall hard. They fall bloody. Better to transform willingly than to be torn apart by revolution. Meanwhile, Captain Jiwan was having her own meeting with Fleet Admiral Korvax. He had challenged her to inspect the Imperial fleet, probably hoping to intimidate her. Instead, she took notes. Impressive, she said, walking around his flagship. The energy shielding is well designed. The weapon systems are powerful. But your fleet is optimized for intimidation, not actual warfare. Korvax bristled. You dare suggest the Imperial Navy is weak? Not weak, Jiwan said. Just specialized. Your ships are designed to overwhelm less advanced opponents. But against a peer adversary, someone with similar technology and actual combat experience, you would have problems. And Earth is a peer adversary? Korvax asked mockingly. Yes, Jiwan said simply. We just finished unifying a planet through total war. Every ship we build includes lessons learned from actual combat. Every tactic we use has been tested under fire. Your navy is larger, but ours is harder. Korvax looked at her with something like respect. You are not boasting. You really believe you could fight us? I believe we could hurt you badly enough that winning would not feel like winning, Jiwan said, which is why we should not fight at all. That afternoon, Engineer Hyun gave a presentation to Imperial scientists. She showed them human manufacturing techniques, material science, and ship design philosophy. The Imperial engineers listened with growing interest. Your technology is different from ours, one of them said. Less elegant, more brutal, but effective. We build things to work, Hyun said, not to look impressive, and we build them to be repaired. We learned a long time ago that pretty ships are useless if they break down. Could we trade knowledge? Another engineer asked. Your manufacturing methods for our energy systems? That is exactly what we want, Hyun said, smiling. Trade, partnership, mutual benefit. Not submission. The Imperial engineers looked at each other. Several of them nodded. They understood. This was better than conquest. That evening, Ambassador Trilith invited Dr. Minji to dinner, just the two of them, in a quiet restaurant far from the palace. I have been speaking with others, Trilith said quietly, representatives from other conquered worlds. We have been watching what you do, watching how you refuse to be afraid. And, Minji asked, and we are starting to wonder, if humans can say no, why can't we? If humans can demand respect, why can't we? Minji chose her words carefully. We are not trying to start a rebellion, Ambassador. We just want fair treatment. But you are starting something, Trilith said. You have shown us that the Imperium is not eternal, that the Empress can be questioned, that we do not have to kneel. What will you do? Minji asked. I do not know yet, Trilith admitted, but I will not kneel again. I know that much. Whatever happens next, I will not kneel. Back in their quarters, the human delegation gathered to discuss their situation. Security Chief Daehyun had been monitoring Imperial communications. What he reported was interesting. The Imperium is splitting, he said. Half the council wants to force us to submit. The other half is considering reform, and the member species are starting to talk to each other, not just talking, planning. We came here to join an empire, Ji-won said. Instead, we might be breaking one, or transforming one, Taeyang said. The question is, do we push harder or step back? We push, Minji said firmly. Not for us. For everyone else. For Trilith and his people. For all the species that joined because they were afraid. If we walk away now, nothing changes. And if the Imperium collapses, Hyun asked, then something better takes its place, Taeyang said. Or at least we give it the chance to. The next morning, they received a message. The Empress wanted to meet again. All of them. In the throne room. They had pushed the Imperium to its breaking point. Now they would see which way it broke. The throne room was designed to make visitors feel small. The ceiling rose 300 feet above the floor. Pillars carved from single pieces of crystal held up arches that seemed to float in the air. The walls showed holographic images of imperial victories, battles won, worlds conquered. And at the far end, up a staircase of exactly 1,000 steps, sat the throne. Empress Selvanith looked immortal. Her skin was smooth and pale. Her hair fell in silver waves to the floor, and her eyes glowed with a light that might have been natural or might have been technology. She wore a crown made of some metal that humans had no name for. It caught light that was not there and threw shadows in impossible directions. Around her throne stood the Imperial Guard, each one 8 feet tall, each one carrying a weapon that hummed with power. Behind them, the court watched. Hundreds of aliens from dozens of species, all dressed in their finest clothes, all waiting to see what the humans would do. High Chancellor Kventhar led the human delegation to the base of the stairs. His voice echoed through the massive chamber. Your Eternal Majesty, Empress of the Velaron Imperium, Keeper of Peace, Conqueror of Worlds, Light of the Galaxy, I present to you the representatives of the species known as humanity. Every other species in the room was on their knees, heads bowed. Ambassador Taeyang looked at the stairs, looked at the Empress, and started walking up. The rest of the human delegation followed. Their footsteps were loud in the sudden silence. They climbed the 1,000 steps at a steady pace. Not hurrying, not slow. Captain Ji-won counted them under her breath. Engineer Hyun wondered why anyone would build a throne you had to climb this far to reach. It seemed inefficient. Security Chief Daehyun watched the guards, noting their positions and equipment. Dr. Minji watched the Empress, reading her body language. When they reached the top, they stopped 10 feet from the throne and bowed, a respectful bow, heads down, the kind you would give to any head of state. Then they straightened and waited. The Empress stared at them. The court held its breath. You did not kneel, the Empress said. Her voice was soft but carried through the entire room. No, Your Majesty, Taeyang said politely. Humans do not kneel. All species kneel before the throne. We mean no disrespect, Taeyang said. It is simply our way. We bowed to show respect. We do not kneel to anyone, not to our own leaders, not to foreign ones. It is cultural. The Empress leaned forward slightly. You understand where you are? You stand before the ruler of 47 systems. I command fleets that could turn your world to ash. I have ended civilizations that displeased me. And you refuse to kneel? We understand perfectly, Your Majesty, Taeyang said. His voice was calm, respectful, but firm. We understand your power. We understand your authority over your territory, but we are not your subjects. Not yet, perhaps not ever. That is why we came, to discuss terms. There are no terms, the Empress said. There is only submission. Then respectfully, Your Majesty, we must decline your invitation. The court gasped. Actual gasps, dozens of them. One alien fainted. The Imperial Guard shifted their weapons slightly. The Empress sat very still. You refuse, she said slowly. No one refuses. We are not refusing to talk, Taeyang said. We are refusing to surrender our sovereignty without discussion. There is a difference. Fleet Admiral Korvac stepped forward from his position beside the throne. He was massive, covered in scales, with a voice like grinding metal. Perhaps the humans do not understand what refusal means. Perhaps they need a demonstration of Imperial power. We have seen your demonstrations, Captain Jiwan said calmly. Your warships are impressive. Your technology is advanced. Your military discipline is excellent. But power is not the same as right. Might makes right, Korvac said. That is the law of the universe. No, Jiwan said. That is the law of empires. And empires fall. This empire has stood for 3,000 years, the Empress said. Dr. Minji spoke for the first time. Your Majesty, humanity has existed for 300,000 years. We have built and destroyed more empires than we can count. 3,000 years is impressive, but it is not forever. Nothing is forever. You dare, Korvac started. But the Empress raised one hand and he fell silent. You are either very brave or very foolish, the Empress said, studying them. I cannot decide which. Perhaps both, Taeyang admitted. But we are also practical. Your Majesty, we are not your enemies. We do not seek war. We do not wish to challenge your authority over your territory. We simply ask to be treated as partners rather than subjects. The Imperium does not have partners. It has members. Then perhaps it is time for a new category, Taeyang said. The Empress was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was colder. And if I refuse? If I insist on submission or nothing? Then we choose nothing, Taeyang said. We return to Earth, we close our borders. We develop on our own. And in 50 years, or 100 or 500, perhaps we meet again under different circumstances. Or I could conquer you now, the Empress said. Save time. You could try, Jiwan said. Not a threat, just a statement of fact. It would be expensive. We are 3 months out of a total war. Our entire population knows how to fight. Every city has bunkers. Every orbital station has weapons. We have 19,000 nuclear devices in active inventory. You would win eventually, but it would cost you. You would threaten me? The Empress asked. No, Your Majesty, Jiwan said. I'm explaining why it would be pointless. You gain nothing from conquering ruins. You gain nothing from fighting a species that will never stop resisting. Better to have us as friends than as permanent problems. High Chancellor Qventher looked like he wanted to speak but did not dare. The court watched in frozen silence. This had never happened before. No one spoke to the Empress this way. No one refused her. No one suggested alternatives. The Empress stood. She was tall. Taller than any of the humans. She walked down from her throne until she stood directly in front of Ambassador Taeyang. She looked into his eyes. You are not afraid, she observed. I am terrified, Taeyang said honestly. But fear does not change what is right. What is right, the Empress repeated. Tell me, Ambassador, if I agree to your terms, if I treat humanity as partners, what happens to the rest of the Imperium? What happens when 46 other species ask for the same consideration? I suppose, Taeyang said slowly, they get it. And your empire becomes something better. Or it falls apart, the Empress said. Only if it is held together by fear. Minji said softly. Things built on fear always fall apart eventually. But things built on respect? Those last, the Empress turned away. She walked back to her throne but did not sit. She looked out over her court, at the representatives of dozens of worlds all kneeling, all watching. You have given me much to think about, she said finally. This audience is ended. Return to your quarters. We will speak again tomorrow. The humans bowed again and turned to leave. As they descended the 1,000 steps, the court remained frozen. No one moved. No one spoke. They had just watched something impossible. At the bottom of the stairs, Ambassador Trilith waited. His eyes were wide. You are insane, he whispered. You are all insane, probably, Taeyang agreed. But we are not wrong. Trilith watched them walk away. These humans who treated the Empress like an equal, who refused to kneel, who acted like the most powerful being in the galaxy, was just another politician, and for the first time in 200 years, he felt something he thought he had forgotten. He felt hope. The throne room was different this time. The court was still there, but now they stood instead of kneeling. Not in defiance, but in uncertainty. No one was sure what the rules were anymore. The humans had broken something, and everyone was waiting to see what would replace it. Empress Selvaneth sat on her throne, but she did not look eternal today. She looked tired, human almost, though she was anything but. The weight of 3,000 years showed on her face. The human delegation climbed the 1,000 steps again. This time other species watched them with different eyes, not with fear or confusion, but with hope. Ambassador Trilith stood in the front row, his back straight for the first time. When the humans reached the throne, they bowed as before. The Empress acknowledged them with a nod. "I have thought much about what you said," the Empress began. Her voice carried through the hall, but it was softer than before. "About empires and fear. About power and respect. About submission and partnership." She paused, looking out over her court. The Imperium was built on a simple idea, that the strong should rule and the weak should obey. For 3,000 years this worked. We brought order to chaos, we ended wars, we united the galaxy under one law. But, she continued, we also brought suffering. We destroyed cities to prove our power. We forced entire species to give up their freedom. We called it peace, but it was really just the silence of fear. Fleet Admiral Korvax shifted uncomfortably. High Chancellor Kuventher stood very still. The court held its breath. "You humans walked into my empire like it was nothing special," the Empress said, looking at Ambassador Taeyang. "You refused to be impressed. You refused to be afraid. You refused to submit, and I hated you for it. Do you know why? Because we showed you that it could be refused," Taeyang said quietly. "Yes," the Empress said. "Because for 3,000 years, every species accepted what we offered. They submitted. They knelt. They called it pragmatism or survival or wisdom. But really they were just afraid. And your refusal to be afraid showed everyone else that fear was a choice." She stood and walked down from her throne. The court gasped, but she ignored them. She walked until she stood face to face with Ambassador Taeyang. "You were right," she said. "An empire built on fear cannot last. It can only delay its own end. The question is what comes next." "That depends on you, Your Majesty," Taeyang said. "You can try to hold on to what you have, force everyone to stay through threat and violence, or you can let it transform into something better." "A federation," the Empress said. "That is what you suggested. Equal members working together by choice rather than force." "Yes," Taeyang said. "And if I agree, if I dissolve the Imperium and create this federation, some species will leave, some will demand justice for past crimes. The unity I built will shatter. Some will leave," Taeyang agreed, "but others will stay, not because they have to, but because they want to. And the unity you build next will be stronger because it is real." The Empress looked around the throne room, at the representatives of 47 systems, at the species she had conquered and ruled for centuries, at the court that had served her without question. "Ambassador Trilith," she said suddenly, "step forward." Trilith looked startled, but he walked forward. He stopped next to the humans, his small frame dwarfed by the massive throne room. "Your people joined the Imperium 200 years ago," the Empress said. "We destroyed 3 of your cities when you resisted. We forced you to submit. We took your freedom." Trilith said nothing, but his eyes were wide. "If I offer you freedom now," the Empress asked, "if I say you can leave the Imperium with no punishment, no retribution, what would you do?" Trilith was quiet for a long moment. Everyone watched him. His answer would matter. "I would ask questions," Trilith said finally. "I would ask what happens to the trade agreements we have. I would ask about the defensive pacts. I would ask if we can keep the technology we gained. I would ask what kind of relationship we could have going forward." "You would not just leave?" the Empress asked. 200 years ago we had no choice," Trilith said. "Today you are giving us one. That changes everything. If you are offering partnership instead of domination, then maybe we stay. But as partners, as equals," the Empress smiled. It was small, sad, but real. "The humans have taught you well." "The humans showed us it was possible," Trilith corrected. "They showed us we did not have to kneel." The Empress turned back to Ambassador Taeyang. "Very well. I will do as you suggest." The Veleron Imperium will become the Veleron Federation. All member species will be given the choice to stay as equals or leave in peace. We will write a new charter together, a document that protects everyone's rights and freedoms. The throne room erupted. Some species cheered. Some looked terrified. Some began talking frantically to each other. Fleet Admiral Korvax looked like he had swallowed something bitter, but he did not protest. High Chancellor Kventhar stepped forward. Your Majesty, this will take time. Years, probably. The legal frameworks alone will be enormous. Then we will take years, the Empress said. Better to build something right than to maintain something wrong. She looked at the human delegation. Will humanity join this new federation? As founding members, helping to shape what it becomes? Yes, Taeyang said without hesitation. We will. Good, the Empress said. Because I will need help. I have ruled for 3,000 years, but I have never led equals before. I do not know how. None of us do, Dr. Minji said. We will figure it out together. Later, after the meeting ended and the court dispersed, the human delegation stood on a balcony overlooking the city. The sun was setting, painting the sky in colors that had no names in any human language. We came here to join an empire, Captain Jiwon said. Instead, we ended one. We did not end it, Taeyang said. We transformed it. There is a difference. Will it work? Engineer Hyun asked. Can you really turn an empire into a democracy just by asking nicely? We did not ask nicely, Security Chief Daehyun said. We refused to play their game. We forced them to see that their system was broken. And now the hard work begins, Dr. Minji said. Building something new is always harder than tearing down something old. Ambassador Trilith joined them on the balcony. He looked different now. Taller somehow, though his height had not changed. Thank you, he said simply. We did not do this for gratitude, Taeyang said. I know, Trilith said. You did it because it was right. That is what makes it matter. He looked out at the city, at the billions of beings who were just now learning that things could be different. My children will grow up in a galaxy where they do not have to kneel. Because of you. Because you walked into the most powerful empire in the galaxy and treated it like it was nothing special. It was not special, Jiwon said. That was the whole point. To you, perhaps, Trilith said. But to us, to everyone who spent centuries believing the Imperium was eternal, you changed everything. The sun finished setting. Stars began to appear in the darkening sky. Somewhere up there, Earth waited, a small planet that had spent 10,000 years fighting itself, only to come out here and accidentally teach the galaxy a lesson about power and respect. You know what is funny? Hyun said. We did not plan any of this. We just acted normal. We treated them like we would treat anyone else. That is what made it work, Minji said. We did not try to conquer them or impress them or outsmart them. We just refused to be impressed. And sometimes that is all it takes. Ambassador Taeyang smiled. History books are going to have trouble explaining this. How humanity joined the galactic community by treating the most powerful empire in the galaxy like a normal government. Let them struggle, Jiwon said. We have more important things to do. Like building a federation that actually works. It will take decades, Daehyun said. Good, Taeyang said. Things worth doing usually do. They stood together on the balcony, 5 humans and 1 small alien watching. The human ship arrived at Veleron Prime on schedule. It was not impressive by Imperial standards. Small, boxy, built for function rather than beauty. But Captain Jiwon Park did not care what it looked like. She cared that it worked. From orbit, the Imperial capital looked like someone had built a city to win an architecture contest. Massive towers reached into the clouds. Golden domes caught the sunlight. The Imperial Palace sat in the center, so large it could be seen from space. Around the planet, defense platforms and warships formed perfect geometric patterns. It is very pretty, Engineer Hyun Lee said from her station. She was recording everything with her scanner. The palace looks like it uses some kind of energy shielding for structural support. Interesting. Very inefficient, but it does create a nice effect. Security Chief Daehyun Kang was checking a different screen. Those defense platforms are positioned for show, not actual defense. Too much space between them. A coordinated strike could punch through easily. Maybe they have never needed real defense, Jiwon said. Or maybe no one has ever tried. They landed at the main spaceport where 5,000 Imperial soldiers waited in perfect formation. Flags bigger than houses hung from poles. A band played music that was probably meant to be impressive. Speakers the size of buildings announced their arrival in several languages. The human delegation walked down the ramp. Ambassador Taiyang led, followed by Dr. Minji Choi, Captain Jiwon, Engineer Hyun, and Security Chief Dae Hyun. Behind them came 20 security officers in plain uniforms. No ceremony, no drama, just professionals doing a job. High Chancellor Kventhar waited at the bottom of the ramp. He was even taller than the envoy, with silver skin and a crown that floated above his head. His robes probably cost more than a small spaceship. "Welcome to Veleron Prime," he boomed. "Jewel of the galaxy, heart of the Imperium, home to the eternal Empress Selvaneth. You stand now on sacred ground where countless species have come to pledge their loyalty and devotion." "Thank you," Taiyang said. "The city looks beautiful. We appreciate the welcome ceremony. Is there somewhere we can store our equipment?" Kventhar blinked. "Equipment?" "Yes. We have recording devices, analyzers, communication equipment, standard diplomatic gear. We will need a secure location to keep it." "Of course," Kventhar said, though he looked confused. "That will be arranged. Now please follow me. The Empress has prepared a banquet in your honor." The banquet hall was ridiculous. It could have held 10,000 people. The ceiling showed stars that moved in real time. Servants stood along every wall, perfectly still, waiting for orders. The table stretched so far that the other end was barely visible. Other species were already seated. Minji counted representatives from at least 30 different worlds. Most of them looked nervous. Some looked afraid. A few looked like they had given up hoping for anything better. One alien approached them during the meal. He was small, maybe 4 feet tall, with blue skin and too many eyes. He moved carefully like someone who expected to be hit. "Ambassador Trilith," he introduced himself quietly. "I represent the Kelvin people. We joined the Imperium 200 years ago." "Ambassador Taiyang Kim," Taiyang said, shaking his hand gently. "It is nice to meet you. How has the integration been for your people?" Trilith looked around nervously before answering. "We have adapted. It was difficult at first. The Imperium has many rules, but we survive." "Just survive?" Minji asked softly. Trilith looked at his feet. "The Imperium is very powerful. When they came to our world, we had a choice. Submit or die. Most of us chose to submit." "Most?" Jiwon asked. Some resisted. "The Imperium destroyed 3 of our cities to prove their point. After that, we understood." The humans exchanged looks. Taiyang kept his face calm, but Minji saw his jaw tighten. Jiwon's hand moved slightly toward her sidearm before she stopped herself. Dae Hyun was taking mental notes. "You do not seem afraid," Trilith observed, looking at them with something like wonder. "Why are you not afraid?" "Should we be?" Taiyang asked. "Everyone is afraid of the Imperium. That is how it works," Minji smiled sadly. "We have seen empires before, Ambassador Trilith. We have seen what happens when power is the only argument. It never ends well." "But they are so powerful," Trilith whispered. "So were the Nazis," Jiwon said. "So were the Imperial Japanese. So were a dozen other regimes that thought power made them permanent. They all fell eventually." Trilith did not know those names, but he understood the tone. "You really are not afraid." "We are cautious," Taiyang corrected. "Caution and fear are different things." After dinner, High Chancellor Kventhar gave a speech. It lasted 3 hours. He talked about every conquest the Imperium had ever made. He described their military victories in detail. He explained why the Imperium was destined to rule the galaxy forever. The humans listened politely. Hyun took notes on her tablet, but she was actually analyzing the building's architecture. Daehyun was mapping security protocols. Minji was studying the body language of the other species present. Jiwon was calculating sight lines and exit routes. Taiyang was the only one really listening, and mostly he was learning what the Imperium thought of itself. When Kventhar finally finished, he looked at the humans expectantly. They applauded politely. "Thank you for that comprehensive history," Taiyang said. "Very informative. Would it be possible to schedule the treaty discussions for tomorrow? We have had a long journey and would like to rest." Kventhar looked like someone had offered him a sandwich when he expected worship. "You wish to discuss treaties?" "There is no treaty. There is only acceptance." "Then we will discuss the terms of acceptance," Taiyang said calmly. "Governance structure, trade agreements, legal frameworks. The usual things. There is nothing to discuss. The Empress decides all things." "Then we will need to speak with the Empress," Taiyang said. "May we schedule an audience?" Fenthar looked frustrated, but he agreed. The humans were shown to their quarters, which were large and decorated with expensive things. Hyun immediately started checking for listening devices. She found 12. They are not even hidden well, she said, pointing them out. See? This one is just sitting on the table. They want us to know we are being watched. Intimidation tactic, Daehyun said. Standard authoritarian playbook. Make people feel exposed and vulnerable. Should we remove them? Hyun asked. No, Taeyang said. Leave them. Let them listen. We have nothing to hide. Jiwon looked out the window at the city below. Lights stretched to the horizon. Somewhere down there, billions of beings lived under imperial rule. How many of them had a choice? How many had stories like Trilith? This is not going to be a simple diplomatic mission, she said. It never is, Taeyang replied. But we knew that before we came. The question is, Minji said, do we join this system knowing what it really is? Do we become part of it? Or, Taeyang said quietly, do we try to change it? Outside, Imperial warships patrolled the sky, their lights blinking in perfect formation. They looked powerful. They looked unstoppable. But then, so had a lot of things throughout human history, and humans had stopped them all eventually. The ship came on a Tuesday morning. Not that Tuesday meant anything to the rest of the galaxy, but on Earth people still counted days the old way. 3 months had passed since the Unification Wars ended. Cities were still rebuilding. Families were still finding each other. And then the sky opened up. Ambassador Taeyang Kim stood in the United Council building, watching the alien vessel hover over what used to be downtown Geneva. The ship was big, covered in gold plates that caught the sunlight. It looked expensive. It looked like someone wanted to impress them. Taeyang had seen impressive before. He had negotiated with warlords who wore human bones as jewelry. He had talked down generals who threatened nuclear strikes. A shiny spaceship was just a shiny spaceship. The alien envoy arrived an hour later. It was tall, maybe 7 feet, with purple skin and 4 arms. It wore robes that dragged on the floor and carried a staff that glowed at the top. Behind it came 20 soldiers in matching armor, their weapons visible but not raised. Taeyang met them at the entrance with Dr. Minji Choi and Captain Jiwon Park. They bowed politely, the way they would to any visiting dignitary. The envoy stopped walking. It seemed confused. The envoy spoke through a translation device. Its voice boomed through the hall. It talked about the Velaron Imperium, rulers of 47 star systems, conquerors of countless worlds, keepers of galactic order for 3,000 years. It described fleets that could darken suns and armies that numbered in the billions. It spoke of honor, glory, and the privilege of joining something greater than themselves. When the envoy finished, silence filled the room. Taeyang waited a moment to be polite, then smiled. Thank you for the introduction, he said. We appreciate you traveling all this way. Would you like some water? Coffee? We have tea if you prefer. The envoy stared at him. Did you hear what I said? The Velaran Imperium invites humanity to join. This is a great honor. Yes, we heard, Taeyang said. And we are honored by the invitation. Could you provide us with the treaty documents? We would like to review the terms before making any decisions. Terms? The envoy's forearms moved in what might have been confusion or frustration. There are no terms. You join the Imperium. You serve the Empress. You follow our laws. That is all. Dr. Minji Choi pulled out a tablet and started typing notes. So it is a full integration model. What about local governance? Trade agreements? Mutual defense clauses? What happens if disputes arise between Earth and the Imperial government? The envoy looked at her like she had asked what color the number 7 was. The Imperium decides all things. That is the way it has always been. I see, Minji said, still typing. And how many member species currently hold seats on the Imperial Council? There is no council. There is the Empress and her appointed governors. Appointed by whom? By the Empress. Minji and Taeyang exchanged a look. They had heard this kind of system before. It usually ended badly. Captain Jiwon Park had been quiet until now. She was shorter than the envoy by 3 feet, but somehow her presence filled more space. You mentioned armies and fleets. How large is the Imperial Navy? The envoy straightened with pride. 15,000 warships across all systems, each one capable of destroying a planet. Jiwon nodded, her face showing nothing. What class of warships? How many are carriers versus destroyers? What are your logistics chains like? How many shipyards do you operate? The envoy seemed thrown by the questions. These were military details, tactical concerns. No new species had ever asked about them. They were supposed to be scared, not curious. These details are not your concern, the envoy said. You need only know that the Imperium is powerful. Resistance is meaningless. Refusal is impossible. We are not talking about resistance, Jiwan said calmly. We are talking about mutual defense. If we join, presumably we would coordinate our forces with yours. I need to understand your military structure to know how Earth's fleets would fit in. Earth has fleets? For the first time, the envoy sounded uncertain. Of course, Jiwan said. Did you think we unified through peaceful discussion? We have 6 active battle groups, orbital defense platforms around every major population center, and manufacturing capacity to build 3 new warships per month. Nothing like your numbers, obviously, but we can contribute. The envoy was quiet for a long moment. When it spoke again, its voice had lost some of its boom. Most species we encounter are not militarized. Most species probably did not spend 10,000 years fighting themselves, Minji said. She had stopped typing and was looking at the envoy with something like sympathy. We had 193 separate nations on this planet before unification. Each one had its own military, its own government, its own idea of how things should be. We know what empires look like, Ambassador. We have built and destroyed dozens of them. The envoy shifted its weight. The Imperium is not like your primitive empires. We are eternal. We are unstoppable. Everyone says that, Taeyang said gently. The Romans said it. The Mongols said it. The British said it. They were all wrong eventually. I do not know these names. Exactly, Taeyang said. More silence. The soldiers behind the envoy looked uncomfortable. They were used to species that trembled or begged or immediately submitted. These humans just stood there, polite but unmoved, asking questions like this was a business meeting. Finally, the envoy tried a different approach. Perhaps you do not understand the benefits. The Imperium provides protection, trade access, technology sharing. You would never want for anything. In exchange for what? Minji asked. Your loyalty, your obedience, your acknowledgement that the Empress is supreme. So not free then, Minji said, typing again. Taeyang could see the envoy was getting frustrated. He decided to offer an exit. Why don't we do this? We accept your invitation to visit the imperial capital. We will meet your Empress, see your society, learn more about this arrangement. Then we can make an informed decision. Does that sound reasonable? The envoy grabbed onto this like a drowning person grabbing a rope. Yes, that is acceptable. You will see the glory of the Imperium and understand why all species choose to join. Choose, Minji repeated quietly, making a note. We will need to bring our own ship, Jiwan said, and a security detail. Standard diplomatic protocol, that is, unusual, the envoy said. It is standard for us, Jiwan said. Her tone made it clear this was not negotiable. The envoy agreed. What choice did it have? It had expected submission or fear. Instead, it got humans treating the mighty Velaron Imperium like any other government. It got questions about logistics and treaty terms. It got politeness without deference. After the envoy left, Taeyang, Minji, and Jiwan stood together in the empty hall. That was interesting, Minji said. That was worrying, Jiwan corrected. They expected us to just agree. No questions, no negotiations. How many species have they done this to? Probably all of them, Taeyang said. Which means we are going to be very surprising. Good, Jiwan said with a small smile. I like surprising people.